Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. Right. I was kind of struggling to do or say anything toward the end of the last video, so I couldn't save. So I was in the middle of the tips section. So we'll skip ahead back to where we were. This should stop at whatever. Yep. And then for the two of them, for a little while, soaked in the voices of the Higurashi. I'm going to try and live to 100, until the business of the dam is proper finished. I ain't kicking the bucket just yet. To get the government to withdraw a decision they've already made is a fairly difficult thing to do. The way this country does things is like turning a millstone, a heavy one at that. A millstone? Don't you know? A millstone. Harry quickly affirmed that of course he knew what the old lady was talking about, for he knew full well Oreo didn't like having her stories interrupted. This millstone, see, can grind anything to a pulp. It's rather impressive. But you see, it doesn't turn that easy because it's rather heavy millstone. Lots of people have to work in unison to get it to even budge. It's that type of millstone. Eerie pursed his lips, listening quietly to what she was saying. Eventually Mian returned some tea laid out in a tray. Seeing that Ori was talking and in a good mood, she quietly knelt down and laid out the sets for the barley and black tea, careful not to interrupt. That's why when it gets going, it's not that easy to stop. It takes the most effort to move it right before it starts turning. Everybody hates that, so everybody keeps pushing along without rest. You're talking about friction, right? I get what you're saying. So in other words, if there's some sort of mistake and the millstone suddenly stops turning, to get it turning again takes a great deal of power, more or less. Certainly to get a project that's been suspended going again takes a lot of work. It's a millstone that isn't easily stopped, but once it's stopped, it'll never turn again. It's that kind of millstone. It'd be nice if there was some way to get that millstone to stop, wouldn't it? When Eerie responded with that, Mian and the old lady suddenly sunk into silence. Eerie, instinctively thinking he had said something rude, searched in a small panic for the words to correct himself, but that silence wasn't the result of rude words. For what crept across Mian and the old lady's faces were contemptuous smiles. The atmosphere surrounding the Eerie suddenly froze, leaving him flabbergasted, thinking that the scornful smiles creeping across both of their faces was the result of some mistake of his. He could only grow afraid. Ha ha ha. It hadn't been that long at all since he was enveloped by silence. However, unable to stand it, Eerie could only let out a weak laugh. Eerie's laugh eventually spread to Mian and the old lady, not knowing exactly what they were laughing at. Their laughter left a lingering chill. The only ones not laughing were the Higurashi, who continued their simple and unchanging chorus. Well, since we'll have to meep. I do like both art styles. You know, she does remind me of Zelos Metallium. I still do want to see more Higurashi games. Granted, I have quite a few more to play through. But I would like more Higurashi games and animes to come out. And I really do like the music. The phone suddenly rang. I woke up in a hurry. The clock read 9 p.m. Damn it. I slept past the time I was supposed to report in. I picked up the receiver. Akasaka-sama? You have a call from an outside line. Shall I connect you? It's from a coworker named Kanao-sama. I knew it. I didn't call in, so they had phoned me. Sorry, please put them through. Understood. I'll connect you, so please hang up the receiver for the time being. After I had put down the receiver for a few seconds, the phone began to ring again. Hello, yes, hello? This is Akasaka. Akasaka-kun? This is Kanao. Good work out there. You didn't call in for your regular report, so we called you instead. What's your situation? Leaving the lecture for later, my senior coworker got straight to the point. Today I went to the village proper under the guise of a tourist. I managed to establish contact with the mayor and several other core members of the Defense Alliance. I wasn't able to ask them anything, but I left a good impression and was able to make a bridge for my investigation from tomorrow onwards. I see. It looks like things are going smoothly. Akasaka-kun, you seem rather naive sometimes, but that might have worked in your favor. I guess you made some good progress for now. I don't have the experience to make comparisons, so I don't know if it's good or not. I think things went well for today, though. Did you find out anything from the prefectural local offices? Does it look as though the Monobush Defense Alliance is unrelated to this incident? I still didn't know. I should have been able to say that immediately. I only had to say that, but for some reason, I hesitated. I'm still investigating, so I don't know what to say yet. I see. Could you let us know as soon as possible? I think you understand, but after tonight, it'll have been a full 4 days since the kidnapping happened. They didn't set a time, but it's obvious that time is not on our side. I think you know that. Yeah, I know. I'll investigate a little quicker, while still being careful. I'm pretty sure the person involved dies, and that's horrible. Okay, be sure to look after yourself. You're dealing with a violent organization here. It might be dangerous to let your guard down. If you feel that you're in any danger, contact me immediately. In that case, I can get the local public safety office prepared to help you. Thank you. I'll do my best. Anything else to report? I reported several bits of supplementary information at the very end, and I decided to ask, how's the investigation going on your end? Everybody's doing their best here, but we're not making much progress. After all, the number of organizations we're investigating is vast. So you find out that the one you're investigating is in the clear. We'll have you return to Tokyo to assist some of the other officers. The chief is saying to dig up what you can on Gafushi, but I don't think a residential anti-dam progress has any relation to the incident at hand. Sending some out just to investigate a single group makes me cringe, really. At this point, he was just complaining. That means... we did say we'd come into town tomorrow. But technically, it may not have been clear up to this point. But we could have just said, nope, they're not involved, and they would have sent us home. In the same regard, as long as nothing major happens tomorrow, there is no reason why we shouldn't be able to just these guys aren't involved in stuff. And then that's that. And we can just go home and be with our family and everything will be fine and there won't be a violent conclusion. At this point, he was just complaining. He was telling me to stop taking time enjoying my trip to finish up and get back quick. I'll try and resolve this as soon as I can. That actually works in our favor. If we had immediately told them, as soon as they're they're not involved or anything, they're you're taking your job half-assed. Take it seriously and actually properly investigate. But by them saying, we need you to you don't need to be out there, just hurry up and get your job done and come home. It means we go back for one more day of investigation, and then we can leave, and everything's good and no one gets any more hurt than they already are. I'll try and resolve this as soon as I can. Thanks, I'm counting on you. Well then, if there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Okay, that's all I have. As we were entering a call, he scolded me thoroughly for being a little late. with my regular report. After that, I hung up the phone and sprawled out on the bed. Come to think of it, I hadn't heard anything from Oishi. He was supposed to contact me about a time and place to meet with the informant tonight. I thought about getting angry with Oishi and retaliation for being scolded for forgetting my daily report. Come to think of it, though, Oishi didn't really say anything other than he was going to call tonight. Waiting for a phone call when you didn't know what time it was going to come was in itself rather difficult. I agree. Just when I thought that, the phone rang. Oh, that's very convenient. I picked up the receiver in a hurry. Hello? Well, this is a surprise. Akasaka-san. You're pretty quick to answer the phone. Are you a regular user of dating chat lines or something? I would never even try something seedy like that. The way you overreact is rather interesting. Nyahaha. Want to go to a place where you can have a little bit of lewd fun? Nufufu? I'll pass. So, could you please get to the point, Uishi-san? Really? Too bad. We'll leave that for next time. Well, I'll get to the point. Many of the executives of the Onikafushi Defense Alliance had a lot of sway in the neighboring regions. Even in Okonomiya, there were a lot of people with relations in the village. That's why meeting in the Shishibone Market District far from Okonomiya was a matter of course. Akasaka-san, over here. Did you get a little lost? Coming from the north entrance might have been a bit of a detour, but it was easier to give directions from there. No, I'm sorry for being late. Did you eat dinner already? Yeah, I already did. Well then, shall we go to a place where we can get a drink? Do you prefer Western alcohol, or maybe sake? Would you prefer a place with or without women? Don't worry about it. I don't drink while I'm on the job. Hearing that, the old man Oishi brought along, bent backwards as he guffawed, clapping Oishi on the shoulder. See? Isn't he just adorable? In exchange, can you give him a bit extra? The money all came from this guy's wallet, you know? The man that Oishi had brought seemed almost like a ticket scalper or a bookie. Even his appearance was dubious. The informant grinned deviously. Hey, boy. How much did you give this guy? It looks like there was quite a bit skimmed off the top, you know? Oishi's handling fee was included, as I took that into account. It seemed that the informant had expected a more extravagant reaction on my part. When I responded matter-of-factly, he realized that I was an entirely different type of person than he was. But rather than putting a distance between us, it seemed that I had piqued his interest. I said it, didn't I? He's the serious type. But do you see, Akasaka-san, people in a line of work like ours can really use their wealth of experience to their advantage. I'm wondering exactly how the experience of drinking in a bar of women would work to my advantage. Wahaha. The informant, unable to contain himself, clutched at his stomach as he guffawed, heedless of the people watching. Ah, Lottie, Akasaka-san, you really can judge people. That's what an education does for you. Oishi-san, you've been drinking somewhere, haven't you? Are you drunk? What's wrong with drinking when I'm off duty? Even if you're working, I'm not. Oishi, who was the sort that'd fool around to begin with, was in such a good mood, I couldn't figure out a way to deal with him. Completely different from me, who had come worried about getting every bit of information I could. Oishi-san, after taking so much money, you were supposed to get me information worth at least as much. I thought this, but then realized that I was getting my information from the informant, so it didn't matter how drunk Oishi was. It was nothing I could complain about, but I still felt slightly riled up. Oishi and the informant, it was no doubt a fake name, but he introduced himself as Sato, led the way deeper and deeper into the back streets of the market district. Even though the market was bustling, a couple of turns off the main street, and you were in a desolate alleyway. Oishi started climbing a set of stairs on the side of a seedy building. There wasn't any sort of signage, so I couldn't tell if the place was open or if it was even a store at all. Don't worry, this isn't a dubious place. Those words coming out of Oishi's mouth had absolutely no credibility. Beyond the door was thankfully a typical mahjong parlor. I was relieved that it wasn't the sort of suspicious place I had to be on my guard about. Welcome, welcome. Oh, Oishi-san, it's been a while. Want to join in? There will be a free spot soon. No, I'm here with a group today, so it's fine. Oh, sorry to keep you waiting. Mahjong is a game played with 4 people. It seems that a middle-aged man who was going to be our 4th had already arrived and was waiting for us. You're late, Corrado. I was just thinking of going home. Oh, she made an excuse for why he had taken so long. Eventually realizing that I was a new face, the other man grew interested. That's Akasaka-san. He's a rookie who came all the way from Tokyo on assignment. They have high hopes for him. Boy, can you play Mahjong? Well, I played a bit when I was still a student. Sato and the old man cackled in unison. Their plot to sucker me out of my money was painfully obvious. I thought you'd be a bit tired from your assignment leaving you on edge all the time, so I thought I'd give you a night to cleanse your spirit. I know asking this now might be stupid, but we're betting money on this, aren't we? Gya ha ha ha. Well, you see, just a little. It's just a little for funsies. But it doesn't matter who loses, because after this we're using that money to go and play at a very nice place. Go and play? What kind of place would you be doing that? Yeah, arcades were a thing back then. Heck, I know Japan technically still has a bunch of those arcades nowadays. Nowadays, though, and I don't know if they're getting back. Are they coming back in popularity in Japan? There's not too many places like that here, at least that I know of. And even then, I'm like, eh. But yeah, we go to an arcade, like play some like Street Fighter or something. Without reservation, 3 of them started suggesting places like cabarets, high-class clubs, and even brothels. At the very least, there were types of places that you couldn't go to with money that was just for funsies. Also, I am married. My wife is currently giving birth while I'm here at Hanamisawa. I can't be doing stuff like that. Oji-san took all my money the other day, and I also have work to do, so I can't stay for long. Then you have to do, and then all you have to do is win. If you win, then you can use that money to pay for this table, and you can talk to Corrado about work or whatever. No matter what happened, it seemed like they were intent on playing Mahjong for free. I would have to fasten my resolve a bit. If I was going to be underestimated like this river, it was going to get in the way of my work. I understand, then I'll play with you guys just for a bit. If I win, you guys don't get any of the money, or get to go to any of those dirty places, and we talk about work right away. Gaha! Yeah, bring it on. If I win, we're headed straight to the Blue Mermaid or on Flower Road. Well, that place where the girls dress up in gym clothes and maid uniforms. Well, that does sound nice, because real life Lunar is completely single. So, I'd probably say yes to going to such places. This old lech here likes that place too. Of course, we're going to hop between all the places where they keep the girls coming. Slurp, slurp, slurp. Mwahaha. What about you, Sato-san? I prefer a place where we can drink quietly. Like a nice, quiet place where you can play footsies with a bunny girl? Mwahaha. Last time we went drinking, you pulled the tail right off that bunny girl, didn't you? Didn't you end up having to pay for that? The owner ended up charging what he called a tailoring fee. What a lively table this was. I could tell the other customers were glaring at us while we loudly continued our crude conversation. Speaking of which, the fact that they assumed I was the same was a bit disheartening. Oshi had taken all the money I'd brought, so everything I had left was out of my own pocket. In addition, there wasn't that much left of that either. If I kept on hanging around him like this, through his goading, my wallet would disappear into the night. I had to somehow win and return the conversation to my job, but these people, no matter how you looked at it, were pretty good. Sorry, Yuki. You know, this kind of reminds me of the club activities from the other games. Naha, well then, I'll just call Ricci here. Well, the old man, Sato, probably won't fall for this silly Ricci. I wonder if Akasaka will spit out what I need. At any rate, Corrado's hand is probably holding something like that, huh? In that case, this one ought to go through there. Oh ho, this old man's pretty good. He's quietly trying to use one of my safe towels to complete his hand, isn't he? It seems that Akasaka-kun has at least learned the ropes when it comes to guarding against someone's Ricci, but that will be his downfall. What's wrong, boy? Would you hurry up and discard? If you're not sure, anything that Corrado's already thrown away should be safe, no? Oh, Akasaka-san's really fretting over this one. It was glaringly obvious that he had a safe tile to discard, but he didn't want to throw it away because it would move him further from completing his hand. They're so nice when they're young and innocent. Come on, hurry up and throw out the kicker. If he gave me the winning tile, we'd be headed to an establishment where I could do with all sorts of licking and sucking. If he gives this old man his winning tile, we head straight to that place with the maids and bloomers. This will go through, right? He looked up as he hesitantly threw out a tile that was, oh, too bad. Hey now, that's a dangerous tile, you know. Corrado, does that go through? Yeah, it will. And it seems this time you were lucky. But as long as your round kept going, I could still win off the draw. But after that, Akasaka managed to luckily avoid throwing any bad tiles, and somehow the round managed to end without anybody completing a hand. Tenpai, Naughton. Sato-san had keenly anticipated that two players were in Richi and had decided to play it safe. What a cool-headed way of playing. Now let's see what kind of hand did Akasaka-kun have. When the round ends with nobody winning in Mahjong, anybody in Tenpai has to show their hand. But if you're not in Tenpai, you have no obligation to reveal it. Your average beginner would normally show their hand even if they weren't in Tenpai, and start a commotion on how if this tile or that came, then they would be in Tenpai. But he didn't. Being stingy? How'd you do, boy? Come on, show me. Sato-san reached over to flip the hand that Akasaka had casually placed face down. What the hell is this? He was nowhere near Tenpai. Was Akasaka-san totally bad at this after all? Right then, as the old man compared the tiles from Akasaka-kun's hand to the discard pool, a puzzled expression crossed his face. Boy, you were in Tenpai right around here, weren't you? Why did you break your hand? The higher Manzu tiles suddenly got more valuable, so he suppressed them. Even though with Oishi-san's Richi, the chance for safe tiles had increased. It would have been no trouble if he read the discards, but he went out of his way to keep them out of play. Oh? So Karado's Tenpai was no good from the start, in other words. If it wasn't such a high-level trap, I would have thought you were waiting for me to throw out the winning tile. But the more concerning the thing is that you were in Tenpai and didn't say anything. When did you realize I was in Tenpai? Around here. You threw out 4 tiles in a row immediately. At first I thought you were just discarding redundant tiles, but I noticed you glancing over me and realized you were waiting for something. Akasaka-san, when did you first start playing Mahjong? I never did, except in high school and university. Now let's continue. Since Sato-san wasn't in Tenpai the round and without a winner, then I'm next, right? The next dealer. It seems like Akasaka-san is really aware of how the game flows. We thought we were just going to eat him alive, but it looks like that isn't going to be so easy. Oishi-san, looks like you're going for the bamboo tiles. Should I put some in play? Tish, this boy. Corrado, don't back down. As long as I get 3 more good tiles, Sato-san, think you can do it? Damn it. I'll just force you to go for a cheap Tanyo. Chi! A straight. Well, sorry, I'm going to pawn that tile. Whoa now, going to call 3 of a kind after he declared a straight? Try to override and interfere? Boy, you're getting pretty used to this. Oh no, I couldn't even compare to you guys who have been playing since before I was even born. That's game, Ron. Triplets, 2 red Dora, and 3 more Dora. I'm the dealer, so this will cost you quite a bit. Gah. Nyaha. Akasaka-san, nice job. Now we'll have to get serious, won't we? Well, can you get serious about handing over your points? I'm tired, so let's end this quickly. Akasaka-kun? This is somehow unreal. Nyaha. Before I could realize it, there was an ominous cold air emitting from beneath Akasaka-kun's feet. How blasé. The 2, 5, and 8 Manzus are laughing at you. Damn it. Boy, you. Corrado, finish it. You have to end the boy's turn as a dealer. I hate to admit it, but that seems like the best option. There it is. Ron. Simple straights. 1 Dora. Sorry, head bump. Ron. Straight. A head bump? You damn brat. Brat. So you did play that sloppily against Brat? Guess that means you're worse than a brat yourself. It's so interesting. The way you guys call people things like brat and boy. Huh? Akasaka-kun? That is you, isn't it? It feels like you're a totally different person. You thought that I, being a sucker, would let you drink some good booze tonight? Seems that you are a little off the mark. Ron. Triple. Straight. Red Dora, and another Dora. Whoa, he actually did it. That's why I'm saying you guys are slacking. No matter how you look at it, you have to be able to read such an obvious three-way weight. Akasa-kun chuckled as he rested his chin in his hands. That pose is so fitting. It's almost... Am I like possessed from my future Kaiichi? Hey, Corrado, this isn't what we discussed. Who the hell said he was a naive sucker ripe for the picking? Nah. Who could it be? Oh, son, this is bad. If he keeps going like this, we're seriously going to lose. Akasa-kun, for you to make me get serious, looks like you really want to be milked dry. Pawn. That sounds nice. One more time. Pawn. Akasa-kun was almost singing at this point. The tiles he had open were all pen tiles. You can't be serious. Are you really going for the flush? Pawn. Boy, are you right in the head? You've opened 4 sets. You only have 1 tile left, you know? That's right. Did you know? Waiting on a single tile is the hardest thing to read. Are you an idiot? With that much of your hand revealed, you don't think we'd give you a tile you need, do you? Nufuhu, I know what you're doing, Akasaka-san. That's not a flush or a half flush, is it? The fact that you called pawn 4 times means you're already in position for an all-triplet hand. Right now, you're far and away in the lead. You're trying to show a flush and goad us into giving you triplets, aren't you? If that's what you think, want to try throwing out some pens? The left 5 tiles in your hand, Oishi-san. They're pen tiles you're reluctant to throw away, aren't they? Why don't you try discarding them in order from the left? You must be joking. Is he a Mahjong god? If not, he had to be the main character of a manga or something. At that moment, the old man set me a sign under the table. The message was simple and clear. Corrado, do it. Crush him. I don't like to cheat against kids like him. Idiot. After being disrespected like this, we can't pull back now. Well, I'm not responsible for what happens, you know? Go ahead. Here we go, boy. Ricci. We'll go open. I'm waiting for 1, 4, or 7 of pins. Most likely the tile that Akasa-kun was waiting for was one of those tiles. With this, Akasa-kun was no longer capable of winning the hand. When I drew from the wall, I switched out the tile that Akasa-kun would draw. The tile that I put there was the 1 pin. One of the tiles that the old man was waiting on. Akasa-kun discarded it a while ago, so there was no threat of it being the one he needed it. Come on, it's your turn, boy. I knew he was troubled that the tile he drew was the 1 pin. Of course, he couldn't discard it. Boy, you must be aware, but if you discard it in an Obarichi, it's worth the limit, you know? You don't have to tell me that. The tile that came from Akasa-kun's hand was an honor tile. Phew, ain't that something? There's only 1 north wind tile left, isn't there? You were counting on a really rough wait, weren't you? But with this, Akasa-kun's fate was decided. Haha, brat, you're lucky you're safe, but your hand only has a single tile. You think you'll be able to run away the rest of this round? Haha, so it's going to be like that. Akasa-kun glared at the old man with a discerning eye. This guy had pretty good instincts. Did he figure out that we were cheating? Let's stop this. Akasa-kun is a step or 2 ahead of us. Fool! You think we can stop it if we come this far? Next, make him draw it. Draw it. The next tile Akasa-kun would draw was the 7 pin. With that, it would be settled. No matter which one he discarded, he played right into the old man's hand. An unavoidable full payout. When I drew my tile, I sneakily swapped Akasaka-san's. Achoo! Crash! What? Akatsuka suddenly sneezed, collapsing the wall of tiles in front of him. Hey, what are you doing? Sorry, I accidentally knocked over the wall when I sneezed. There's a penalty for that, right? I'm the dealer, so 4,000 to everybody? Or is the penalty my point sticks? Wahaha! Unable to hold back, I guffawed. Akatsuka, knowing he was going to be cornered a second time and unable to escape, he took the drastic measure of knocking over his own wall. You're a good boy. To get away from a full payout like that? Gahaha. Oh-san, could you not bother putting me in such an obvious trap? If we were at Baba, this would have been at the point where I flipped the table. Oh, no, sorry, I underestimated you. For some reason, you're really good, aren't you? Answer me honestly. You got a lot of experience when you were younger, didn't you? I played quite a bit around Waseda and Takata Nobaba. The place where I was accustomed to going had pretty high rates, and they chewed me out. I made the woman who would become my wife pretty angry, so I washed my hands of it all. Raise the stakes too high? How much were you playing for at the time? It depends on who I was playing with, but it was more expensive when I played in Kabukicho. The largest stakes I played there were about 20 times the standard rate. 20 times? What kind of stakes were those? Did you have Yakuza at your table? Or pro baseball players? What's this? Corrado? You buffoon! Where did you pull this professional from? I give up! Jeez! Boy, it's your win. I surrender. Thank you very much. It was an honor. Nah, oh my. Akasaka-san, your personality really changes when you play. Why do you even have a day job? You'd have no problem living as a freelancer. To be a pro mahjong player, you need both talent and luck. I didn't have anything like that supporting me. Luck is luck. With somebody of your skill, I'd think you'd be able to make it pretty far. Normal luck doesn't cut it. Calling a con and a 1 time out of 3 you can aim to win, of the extra draw of a 4-door, that kind of luck. Akasaka-kun, if you can judge something like that, you're already bordering on the supernatural. There's plenty of people who can do that without cheating or superpowers. There was a person I met in Shinjuku who would get Doris every time you blinked. He was as strong as a demon. There was a pro player played with Yokohama who would draw the tile he needed immediately after calling Ricci, like it was an everyday thing. I don't have that kind of luck. What type of folks were those? They weren't even named Ryo or Satoshi, by any chance. Well then, is it alright if I'm declared the overall winner then? Yeah, we totally lost. I lost. It's been a while since I lost this big. Still, when you were playing, boy, you were pretty into it. It was kind of scary. I hear that a lot. I don't mean to change gears like that, though. Did I really look that scary? Yup. The three of us nodded emphatically in agreement. So, that was Akasaka-kun, the Mahjong prodigy. Before he goes home from his assignment, maybe I could have him play at a high-stakes table in my place. But it's not good to get greedy. Ifu? Well, then, nothing for it. It was a promise. We'll break up our little late-night study group right now. Sorry about this, old man. That's it for tonight. Nothing you could do. I'm going home to sleep. My body won't last like this. Problems at work? Oh, he's the foreman of a primary construction site at the Himatsubushi Dam. He's butting heads with the residents every day. It's a rough business. Around next year, I might be in charge of the second site as well. I heard that Kuroda-san was pissing blood. He won't hold out much longer. You'll be alright, old man. Your skull is thicker than it looks. Nifu? I'm not exactly a saint, you know. There's times that just make my blood boil. I especially can't stand dealing with those bratty daughter of the Sonozakis. Are we talking about Mion or Shion? I think one of these days I'm going to rearrange her face. Mion did say she was quite the troublemaker back in this time period. Now, at least the pay is good, right? Heard the wages were pretty exorbitant. Exorbitant. Of course they are. If the pay was cheap, nobody would hang around that god-awful job. Hey, Corrado, exactly when are the police going to tell all the villagers to shove off? There'll be a notice of eviction from the government, right? Maybe. I wonder what will happen. The old man who identified himself as the foreman at Himatsubushi Dam spewed a few complaints until he felt better about it, then left quietly. Well then, let's go. I'll leave the rest to Sato-san. Oshi-san, are you going home? If I'm here, I'll just be in the way, won't I? Besides, the one who bought Sato-san's services was you. I didn't pay for my share. Oshi-san was kind of sketchy, but he was strangely conscientious about some things. I felt quite a bit of a gap between myself and Oshi-san's generation, from the part of him I didn't comprehend. Then, boy, No, I can't call Mr. Mahjong here boy no more. Is Akasaka-kun all right with you? Yes. Then Akasaka-kun, shall we go? Well then, Akasaka-san, later. If you're having any trouble, you can count on me any time. I don't have any more money to pay you. You know that. You can just give back a little of what I lost tonight. Aha. Roshi, seemingly still not having had his fill of playing around, but without overstaying his welcome, disappeared into the night. This is just the time-wasting arc where we just explore the lore. I'm enjoying it, though. I'm enjoying the extra bit of story. But this is just... Welcome to Lunar D8 Consumes Lore. That's basically what this is. Then again, I don't play the Warhammer 40k tabletop game. I never have played a single round of that, but I do have a dozen of the books just to casually read. I might be the only weeb on the internet that makes YouTube videos. The informant named Sato-san had me get into his car before he set off. He favored narrow roads and made numerous short left turns. Checking if we're being followed. Yeah, you know a lot about this. Checking to see if you were being tailed by making left turns was a rather classic technique. If it was just a single pursuer, you could confirm it that way. But if you were being tailed as a team, this archaic method wouldn't let you shake them. Of course, doing it anyway was better than not. I didn't hear anything from the boss as to who you are, Akasaka-kun. Related to the police, if you're familiar with the checking for being tailed, the only possibility I can think of is something like a private detective. If it's not something I have to say, I'd like to refuse to answer that question. My. Ever since we played Mahjong, you seem a lot more mature. I wonder where that hesitant person went from when we first met. I smiled wryly. Looking back now, I had to be a little grateful for being made to play Mahjong. Thanks to that, I was able to relieve some tension. Eventually, Sato-san, confirming that there were no cars following us, slipped outside the city. We were on a pitch-black country road, unable to see anything besides the lights outside. The only thing I was able to hear were the hum of the car's air conditioning and the chirping of the insects and frogs. I heard from the boss that you want to hear a bit about Himatsubushi village, yeah? Like, about the old houses known as the Three Families, who control the place, or that right now is pretty much the Sonozaki family running things. If you know that much already, I'll cut out the introductions. Then if you would, can you confirm or deny if the Onagafushi Defense Alliance is involved with the kidnapping of Minister Unagai's grandson? Sato-san checked the rearview mirror one more time to confirm that there wasn't anybody behind us before speaking. Last night, the Sonozaki main house held a family council. Did you hear about it from the boss? No. If it was a normal meeting, then it would just be all the relatives coming together over a nice cup of tea or something. But frankly, a family council held by the main house isn't quite so relaxed. A family council held by the Sonozaki main house. That would be a meeting between those who truly controlled Himatsubushi village. They wouldn't be talking about private family matters. It would be about the village as a whole, and about organizing activities against the dam project. Among other things, everything would be decided there. In reality, they were deciding the fate of the village. At the head of the meeting was Oryu Sonozaki, more or less called Empress Sonozaki. As the ultimate decision-maker of the clan, she was to be feared and respected. Infirm with old age, she was often unable to stand on her own, but her words carried enough weight to sway the fate of the village. It seemed that lately she had grown weak, and on days where she wasn't feeling well, remained bedridden. Family councils that occurred while she wasn't feeling well took place with her on the floor, in the middle of a dignified Japanese-style room, still in a futon. Only the upper half of her body was sitting upright, a stern look on her face. That was Oryu Sonozaki. I mean, she's in good enough health. She lives another couple years. You know, she's alive and the modern timelines, until her granddaughter like electrocutes her to death and like kicks her a bunt. So, though to be fair, Mion and Xian did have some repressed anger against, well, each other and her, so still probably doesn't justify, electrocuting and drop kicking an elderly person, Then again, we are in Hinamazawa, so there are much, much worse things. Sitting next to her was her heir, Mion Sonozaki. She was still young. No, young wasn't quite the right word. She was a girl who remained childish. Her role was to merely sit beside Oryu Sonozaki, sometimes responding to requests. However, she was the only one deemed worthy to succeed Oryu. She had the same hawkish eyes, enough to give pause to anybody who so much as looked at them. Much was expected of her in the future, this granddaughter of the Sonozaki's leader. And on the other side of her sat several other important members of the remaining three families, the Kimiyoshi family and the Furude family. First on the list of the Kimiyoshi family was, of course, the mayor of Hinamazawa village, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi, and lined up beside him were several more of his direct relatives. Opposite them sat the other of the three families, the Furude family. The Furude family was only comprised of the family of a Shinto priest, so the only ones sitting there were the said priest, his wife, and their daughter Rika. Rika was doted on by many of the older folks in the village, and it seems that Oryu was no exception. I mean, this is good and all, but wasn't there like a lot of domestic violence between the guy and his wife, and even the situation where like Satoko accidentally broke something inside and the dude decided to like beat the fucking shit out of Rika? It depends on the anime, or even the abridged series, how far that goes. While the stress from that, just attending a family council, was said to be enough to shorten your lifespan by 3 days, it seemed like Rika was the only one exempt from that. This also brings something else to fact. These family councils, one, is the Yonegafushi Defense Alliance involved? That should seem pretty obvious. But two, how publicly is it being spoken? Because here's the thing. This means, regardless of any of the other timelines we go through, this is a unchanging base thing that's not affected by the Mandela catalog, Mandela effect sort of stuff. Meaning, in all the times where we as Kiichi are, seeing or talking to Mion or Rika, there is the fact that Mion and Rika were aware of this kidnapping thing and how severe it got. This, while I can't necessarily blame them for it, especially at their age, it does mean that they can't claim ignorance of the more nefarious parts of this fucking city. Especially given other things that, despite in any timeline, are unchanging facts that they're aware of. No matter how charged the atmosphere was around her, she paid it no mind. Instead, humming along as she doodled in a sketchbook. In fact, the night before, lying on her stomach, while humming and doodling, she nonchalantly tucked her legs in Oryu's futon, like it was a kotatsu. Also keep in mind this year, we are a couple of days away from Watanagashi during this event. Let's keep this in mind. Technically, our mother would still be the Shrine Maiden at this point, if we're looking from Rika's perspective. What this means is that Rika's not having to do any practices for the Shrine Maiden stuff at all. And this year's Watanagashi victims are Rika's parents. Which means in about a week, Rika-chan will be an orphan. And then the year after that,
Satoko, who was recently orphaned the year before this, but we're talking about a year after this. So last year, so you're saying a year ago, so here's the thing that happened. Last year, Satoko's parents died and she became an orphan. And her and her brother have gone to live with her uncle and aunt. This year, Rika, her parents are going to die. And she's just going to live on her own behind her normal house that's a little bit smaller. And then next year, Satoko's brother will disappear. Her mother will be beaten to death by either a drug addict or Satoshi. And Satoshi will either run away or be, ritualistically murdered by the Sonozakis, which mean Mion actually murdered Satoko's older brother, or he went crazy and killed himself via the Hinamizawa syndrome, or he was dissected by the Nazis living in the mountains, who, unethical biological experiments. Either way, he's dead. And the year after that, it's mainly Jiro, Mio, and, well, everybody that dies. All this was the three families. Now, we also have to keep in mind that the start of this game, like most of this is considered a flashback. And the start of this game was that we're saying that, okay, these events occurred a few years before Keiichi showed up. But we're also mentioning that this is a flashback memory of, like, we're talking about the only other time we ever met Oishi in our life. Now we're going to visit Oishi, the detective, who's retired after Hinamizawa. He was now living with his mother, who has passed away, but living in her place. He's going to go visit him. And keep in mind, we're now at the point, that's 2 years past the normal timeline. And hypothetically, the timeline where the time loop succeeded in getting a version of Hinamizawa where nobody died in the 5th year. Which means, hypothetically, it should be impossible for Akasaka-san to die in this game. Or for any of the major characters. Which would you think would make it less suspenseful, but who knows. There's also the anime version where they go down an alternate timeline where Akasaka-kun gets injected with a drug and goes insane and murders Rika-chan and then lights a building on fire while clawing out his own throat. But that's also in the future. But before this future, that future, after this, present, past. You guys know what I mean. All this was the three families, and all around the room, lined row upon row, were relatives of the Sonozaki family. The only ones who were afforded cushions to sit on were direct relatives. The others were left to sit in the Seiza position, directly onto Tommy. I don't know what... Is that Indian style, or is that Japanese style? I don't know. When in doubt, use Google. Okay. Sitting Seiza. What is that? Ow! Ow! I don't think I can physically do that. I'm pretty sure I would start having cramps and fall over. I don't... my ankles would probably be in a lot of pain. I don't think I can physically do that. I don't think that's a thing I can do. I don't think I can physically sit like that. That looks extremely painful. With Emperor Sonozaki enshrined at their center, they were almost like a giant snake coiled around the room. It was decided that everybody would sit in order from the rank. The number of people from the Sonozaki family was overwhelming. The fact that the Sonozaki family held so many seats at a meeting where everything pertaining to the village was decided made determining where the balanced power was held in the three families as clear as day. The number of members in attendance from each of the families directly reflected how much influence they held in ruling Hinamizawa. What was talked about at that meeting? Sato-san, after remaining silent for a while, quietly began to speak. Wasn't our monetary gift of appreciation to the media a little large? Okay, here's the question. How do you know this? Mr. Informant. It's like the Dragon Ball Z abridged stuff, like Frieza's telling a story. And Vegeta's like, wait, how do you know about the parts that you weren't there for? And you're like, well, obviously the informant's there. Exactly. This is a pretty close-knit meeting of only the people involved. How does the informant even know that the meeting's taking place, let alone what was said inside? This means that either directly the informant was one of the people sitting there, or was told either directly or indirectly from somebody in there. Which means either the informant was directly there, or someone who was there told the informant, or somebody that was there told someone else who told the informant. Which either means the person was there, and that's leaking that information. It's a pretty big fucking deal, even outside of Hinamizawa. Or if someone else leaked it to the informant, or leaked it to someone in the informant, all those people involved in that chain are technically committing treason against Hinamizawa and against the council. That, unless they're doing so with full, like, it could always be that they're like, hey guys, I know this person, he's wanting to know information, I'm going to tell him exactly what you guys want me to let him know. That way we're like basically putting bait out for the police that might come after us. So that way we know about, their involvement and what their plans are. I'm just saying this. Either the person who's informing us, either directly or indirectly, is not on our side, or they are taking an enormous risk. And either they're already in the loop, or they are going to be very easy to be found out. Breaking the long moment of silence was the head of Kimiyoshi family, Kichiyocho Kimiyoshi. The Otogafushi Defense Alliance wasn't a business. They were nothing more than a private organization pushing for the cancellation of the Hinamizawa Dam project with no reliable source of income. Fundraising had always been a problem. When they first started operating, they had managed to collect a sizable amount of funds through donations, but as the conflict died on, that amount was steadily declining. This is an era where you can get what you want just by throwing rocks. It's very important you don't underestimate the power of the media, and we want to borrow some of that down the road. The expressions of the people related to the Sonozaki family were sullen, as the one who suggested that they should borrow the power was from the family head, Oryu Sonozaki. The battle wasn't just about force of arms. In this civilized age, there were civilized methods of fighting. Oryu suggested that, creating a strategy incorporating the mass media. Oryu's foresight was spot on, and the effects of the plan, while at first unclear, slowly began to manifest. If the physical confrontation of the construction site was meant to delay progress of the dam by even one day, then the propaganda war used in the media was aimed at attacking the dam project itself. At first, there were those who had doubts about that strategy, but there were nobody now that called the results into question. But in order to maintain those media ties, the colossal amount of money was required. As long as the amount of funds they had was abundant, things would turn out fine. It couldn't be argued that it was a massive expense, but the results spoke for themselves. But with that conflict continuing to drag on, the circumstances had changed. The head of the Sonozaki family, no, the one who sat at the pinnacle of the Hinamizawa three families, Oryu, had suggested the idea herself, so it was already untouchable, and they continued to be allowed to drain from the budget. Nobody acknowledged that it should be so allowed, but nobody could say anything. That was the price of dealing with the mass media. What do you think, Oryu-san? The only person who could object to a plan proposed by the head of the Sonozaki household herself was probably Mayor Kimiyoshi. Oryu, with a hard-to-define expression on her face, as if she had severed herself from the fetters of the mortal emotion, simply listened quietly to Kimiyoshi's words. But really, it was hard to tell if she was quietly listening or didn't even have the intention of listening at all. Last year, we went through a lot of trouble getting people to wrap their heads around the price hike on the bulletins we were putting out. We convinced them it was just one time. It just wouldn't do if we had another one this year. Right, Furude-san? The mayor looked to the priest and his wife from the Furude family for affirmation. The priest gave a vague expression, avoiding a prompt response, but his wife gave her answer without a second thought. That's right. The costs of the bulletins are a particularly harsh burden for the poorer families. Everybody is dealing with it for the sake of the village, but it's best we don't increase the prices anymore. The bulletin was, as its name implied, a bulletin published by the Onukafushi Defense Alliance. It's outlined the alliance activities, ideals, and resolve, but you couldn't deny the contents were rather piecemeal. That bulletin's main goal wasn't to inform people, but rather was something to sell to businesses and people living in the village or connected to it, using those sales to collect funds. In other words, it had become something of a tax. Of course, it didn't have to be said that this was one of the main sources of income for the Onukafushi Defense Alliance. Originally, purchase was supposed to be voluntary, but in Hinamizawa, it's silently become the opposite. In the neighboring towns as well, it seemed that many businesses were buying copies just to avoid butting heads with the alliance. The priest whispered to his wife to not say anything unnecessary, but was struck down decidedly with a cold glare. Cowering from that glare, the priest shut his mouth. The priest's wife always held the power in their relationship. That was because she was the one who carried the Furude bloodline. The priest merely married into the family. He was nothing more than somebody who had adopted the name just to join the three families. He should have been able to find a spot fairly high up in the hierarchy of things, but the lack of authority in his voice meant that he had still not gained any favor. Casting a backward glance at his rather disparate parents, Rika continued to doodle whimsically without paying them any mind. Signaled by a look from Oryu, Mion brought her ear closer to her grandmother. There was something said to her in a quiet voice. After responding with a couple questions with a nod from Oryu, Mion looked around the room and conveyed her grandmother's words. There will be no freeze on the price increase. There will no freeze on the price increase to the bulletin. Kimiyoshi made a face like he had just bit into something unpleasant, but that expression quickly disappeared like it had never happened at all. But Mion-chan, I think you already know this, but the cost of the bulletin is by no means easily affordable. It's a burden carried by everybody in the Hinamizawa. If we make poor people carry too much of that burden, it's possible we'll collapse from the inside. And who on the inside would start that collapse? Who? I didn't mean it like that. I'm asking who would be the first to buckle. Being cross-examined by a girl who still had her fragments of childish remaining with her, the words stuck in Kimiyoshi's throat as he sunk into silence. Mion repeated the question once more, looking around the crowded room. Everybody refrained from making eye contact to avoid being pierced by her gaze. The words she had spoken were unarguably said in proxy for you. That's why, when Mion spoke them, they carried the same weight. But the look in her eyes was different. Like Oryu's, they had a hawkish gaze, strong enough that anybody looking upon them would freeze in their tracks and yield. But that gaze was, without question, one that belonged to Mion herself. As Mion would eventually inherit everything from Oryu, the day when she would stand up as a young and capable leader in her own right would come. Nobody wanted to believe otherwise for even a minute. That's why nobody even thought of Mion as just some sort of little kid. Kimiyoshi-san, nobody will lose the resolve over something like a price hike on the bulletin. Kimiyoshi, while grumbling a little bit, made a gesture as if to say he had no objection. The expenses related to the mass media will continue. If those expenses become too much, we'll have no choice but to continue the price hikes. Mion had rendered her judgment. Everybody bowed their heads, silently listening to her words. In the name of Mion Sonozaki, as acting head of the Sonozaki family, I hereby declare that all this shall be effective immediately. There shall be no objections, and any opposition shall be removed by force. The formal decree was read aloud, indicating her judgment. There would be no retrial, and there was a certain authority behind those words that even a courthouse couldn't compare to. I think the only thing Kimiyoshi could really say at this point would be like, okay, could probably try to help the poorer people to be able to afford the shit. If she was a judge, she would have banged her gavel, signaling the matter was settled. Mion pulled out a large bell from inside her clothes and rang it. Everybody present could only prostrate themselves before the harsh sound of the bell. Well, that's a rather old-fashioned family council, isn't it? A young guy like you probably would find it hard to believe. In an antiquated place like this, these types of things have firm roots. It was exactly as Oshi said. The old system of the three families had vanished, and now the Sonozaka family was running things by themselves. On top of that, their rule was borderline despotic. Was that the end of the meeting? While I'm grateful for this information, both on the meeting and the contents of what they're about to discuss, that will be confirmation on the stuff I'm asking about. Especially since you didn't give me a direct no about them kidnapping. So it's almost like you're leading to a story where you're confirming it. At which point it's kind of too late for me to say. Unless I decide. But who knows? It depends on what do you want to do, Akasaka-san? Do you want to not die? 'Cause not dying is very convenient. But the biggest question is this. How does my informant have this information? That is a big concern. This isn't just hearsay. This is something you either had to be there for, or had to either somebody who was there directly told you, or they told someone else who then told you. Which again, the more people it goes through, I mean, the less directly you're tied to it, but the more loose ends, the more unreliable, and it's just. What I'm saying is I still value this information very, very much. It's that I'm very concerned on how did you get this information? Because this should be sending up some red flags in terms of my personal safety. No, there's more. Always is, isn't there? Eventually, after the ringing of the bell ceased, there was a deafening silence. Within all of that, a lone man shuffled closer to Mion and whispered something in her ear. Mion asked several questions quietly in response. When she was satisfied, she motioned for the man to leave. The man who talked to Mion was a member of the gang that her father was the leader of. That organization had the entire area of Shishibone City under its control, so it was quite well known even here. Of course, this was talking about the criminal underworld, so it's not like just anybody would know. And that's the other thing, yeah. Mion's mom and dad are the people that run the fucking mafia. They're the fucking Yakuza leaders for the entire, part of Japan. But just showing a patch with the gang symbol on it was enough to resolve any disputes in the neighborhood. Mion's biological father, Oryu, was her daughter's husband. The power of that man's gang was the driving force that controlled the dark underbelly of the Onkafushi Defense Alliance. And so that man, from his position as the next in line to control the three families, continued to coerce everybody around him with his unconventional presence. Mion exchanged a look with her father. Was it okay for her to tell what she had just heard directly to Oryu? It looked like she was asking him that question. Her father gently but firmly nodded his response. Mion also nodded, then I think it should be sidled up to Oryu and informed her of something. Eventually, Mion finished conveying her message, separated herself from Oryu, and fixed her posture, waiting for Oryu to signal her response. Here's a question. The man telling me this stuff said it happened, air quotes, last night. Which means technically this meeting occurred a few hours after Oishi brought me into town. It also means that by the time I met Rika-chan in that odd bus stop this morning, This meeting had already taken place. It wasn't often that Oreo showed any emotion. That's why when she started to laugh quietly, a vague sense of uneasiness crept over everybody in the room. That's quite the conundrum, isn't it? Kehehehe. Oreo was laughing so happily that Kimiyoshi had to hesitantly ask, "What is it, Oreo-san? If this land is like a mother to us, then this business with the dam is like somebody threatening our mother's life, isn't it?" Kimiyoshi, unable to comprehend the meaning of her words, looked confused. Oreo, with a wide grin on her face, turned toward everybody and addressed them in a clarion voice. The minister behind the dam project is apparently rattled over the kidnapping of his grandson. That makes us even. Well, even if you weren't involved in this, you shouldn't know about this. The fact that you know about it, period, means you're likely involved. And this means you're claiming ownership of this and pride in it. Like I said, even if you can argue that this would be a situation that would call for violence to protect your city, kidnapping a child is definitely a line that's way, 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 way past the point of justification. That's absurd. Information on the kidnapping minister and Unogai's grandson shouldn't have leaked from anywhere. How did they know? Even we didn't know that much about the kidnapping incident. Exactly how did an antiquated household from far away in Tokyo come to know of it? Yeah, the only way they would know about it is if they are the ones who did it. It was a tranquil place, but I couldn't help but have an uneasy feeling about Himatsubushi Village. At some point I had mentally filed this place away as unrelated incident at hand. That mental paperwork had just blown away in the wind. How did the Onoguchi Defense Alliance know about that? Sato-san, unable to come up with an answer, fell into silence. "I'm sorry. Please continue." "Sure. The Minister of Construction's grandson was kidnapped. Oryu-san, is that true? That major of an incident was nowhere to be seen in the newspaper or on TV. But in Himatsubushi, there was nothing strange about Oryu knowing something that the rest of the world didn't. Our pain is the pain of losing a mother. I don't think it completely makes up for it, but the pain of losing a grandchild. This makes it sound like you're gonna fucking kill him. It's fucking monstrous. He'll have to bear with that for a bit, don't you think? The last question wasn't addressed to anybody in particular. This also means anytime we meet, Oryu, it's someone who's actually responsible for this kind of shit. And this is stuff that, Rika and Mion are aware of. It was as if she was looking for a consensus. Still, land and a human child are different things. I don't mind him here, but I want no harm to befall him. I don't mind hiding him here, but I want no harm to befall him. The child isn't to blame. Who is speaking right now? Who is talking? Make sure to keep that in mind. Is it the mayor? That's not involved. They fucking did it. That means that the Onoguchi Defense Alliance was involved in the kidnapping? I can't say for certain. Why? Even though their leader Oryu was clearly giving orders on the treatment of the kidnapped child? Lad, you see, this is what the Sonosaka family always does. Always does? What do you mean by that? Let's say there was a particular problem. One that wasn't exactly favorable for the Sonosaka family. If Oryu shows concern over that particular problem, hearing that, somebody who attended the family council would be helpful. As a result, Oryu's wish would be granted. However, neither Oryu or anybody else would know exactly who did it. With this kind of clever little ploy, the Sonosaka family was able to manipulate events even though they had their hands laid out on the table. Then that means somebody who was at the family council was the culprit. Wouldn't that be like in Spider-Man? If like J. Jonah Jameson calls Spider-Man terrible things, and then people react to that, attacking Spider-Man, possibly hurting one of his loved ones. Wouldn't that then mean, even though J. Jonah Jameson didn't directly attack Spider-Man, he should still be held responsible for the or imagine if like somebody was like a really big like Twitch streamer or something, and they were calling for like violence against like an American senator or something, and then somebody went to attack that senator. I mean, technically, wouldn't that count as a criminal offense? I don't know how that works. Or there was a possibility that there was never a culprit in the first place. Or yourself in that room full of people didn't explicitly say somebody pulled off the kidnapping. She was just giving her opinion. But she did say if somebody was having him here. So it was Oreo that was saying that, but yeah, at least she's saying that she doesn't want him to get hurt. And the fact that the information that we as a player have confirmed that the person's there, and then also the main family. So it would be probably an offshoot of the Yakuza group that's with Mion's dad. It was an odd and unpleasantly secret way of doing things. Were they involved or weren't they? Actually, wouldn't this be like a thing that the government does with the military? I think it's called compartmentalization. It technically allows for things like this to occur. I couldn't see beyond the veil. This much, however, I could say with certainty. This kidnapping was an ironclad secret. No matter how high a position somebody was in, even they wouldn't know about it. If there was somebody who would know about it, they would be connected to public safety. In other words, one of us. We have a mole. Oh my god, don't tell me it's Mr. Kanoe, the guy that I give my reports to. Don't tell me the dude that I'm giving my fucking reports to is in on it. The only option were people connected to the case itself, including the minister. There would be people affected by this incident, or the people that committed it. In any case, there were no way old household in any place removed from Tokyo by over 6 hours highway travel should know about it. How does our informant know not only the intricacies of how this meeting takes place, but how does the informant know the exact words that were said during this meeting? Them knowing at all was already strange. How does our informant know? How does the informant know? Seriously, how does the informant know? How does the informant know? My suspicions began to accumulate, especially about my own fucking person I do my reports to. My suspicions began to accumulate like falling snow. That's as much as Oreo said in regards to the kidnapping. Hopefully what you wanted to find out was in there. After this, it's up to you. I don't know what kind of work you're doing, but if you're going up against the Sonozaki family, you best prepare yourself. Oshi might be fearless, but even he's been attacked 2 or 3 times. He hasn't been wearing it lately. But at one point, he was wearing a stab-proof vest while off duty. Oh? Thanks for the warning, I'll be careful. You speak pretty well. Are you from Tokyo by any chance? Huh? What's your point? Investigators were always close to danger. It was best not to divulge any information on myself. Your job. Yes? Where is this going? I feel very concerned. It's almost like the music stopped for suspense reasons. You shouldn't know this or even be able to guess it. Could you possibly be somebody for the Metropolitan Public Safety Division. I feel like the Mr. Kanoe dude is in on it, and I feel like my fucking informant isn't exactly secretly taking information from this meeting. I feel like he's there, and he's allowed to give me this information with full blessing from Oryu herself. I'm pretty sure Mion gave permission directly to this man to give me information. They're not directly trying to scare me off or kill me, but they're basically saying, you should probably be a little concerned. But then again, why not just not tell them about the stuff involved with the group? I'm just like, yes, there could be better ways. Like, I'm informed, but they didn't say anything about it. They're in the clear. What reason is there to out them? So I don't know. So I'm just saying I feel like I don't really trust. I couldn't remain silent here. It would be the same as thing as admitting it. Huh? No way. Ha ha ha. This wasn't accounted for in the money I got from the boss. But as somebody who played at the same table today, I'll give you this one as a freebie. After Oryu talked about the kidnapping, there was one other topic that came up. It's me, isn't it? It's me. It's the guy who came in the odd outfit. But technically, Rika didn't meet me until, though, the people in the village, the guy who was driving me around, is a person who's the treasurer for this group. He would have been at the meeting. And Rika was in the straight-up meeting there. And Rika was at the bus stop that I was told to go to. And there was no logic. Like I said, it's the city that she lives in. But here's the thing. It's kind of out of the way. There was no real reason for her to be there. The other thing is this. When Rika was like, can I come? Can I come? The dude was only feigning to try to tell her not to come. The dude already knew that Rika was already going to be there. And he was already told that he was supposed to bring Rika with him. And the plan was always to attend the Rika shrine. At the Furude shrine. Rika was at the bus stop on purpose as a plan by Mion and Oryu to be there when I got there. Everything's fucking premeditated. Another topic that Oryu brought up, and right before he told me this, Sato-san asked if I was from the Metropolitan Public Safety Division. In other words, what those two things meant caused a chill to run up my spine. Yes, I was just discussing that. So you see, that in order to investigate the kidnapping of the minister's grandson, there's word that there will be an investigator from public safety dispatched all the way from Tokyo. You know, even if I hadn't showed up the previous day in the most suspicious fucking mask possible, all of a sudden, oh, guys, guess what? There's going to be someone here from public safety dispatched all the way from Tokyo to investigate. By the way, there's this guy that's a tourist that's here to just take pictures of nature. Completely unrelated. Like, it's a complete coincidence, right? An investigator from public safety. They can't be reckless and make a big deal over the kidnapping. So it seems the Metropolitan Police Safety Division is investigating on this on their own. Ain't that grand, What is it? Rika, who had been drawing the entire time and was completely uninterested in the conversation up until now, looked at Oreo with an interested face as soon as the topic of public safety came up. Did the Metropolitan Police come? Oh, so Rika-chama knows about the Metropolitan Police Department. That's very admirable. Who came? Is there anybody that knows what kind of guy from the public safety came here? Mion's father raised his hand slightly. I heard that it's a nice young piece of fresh meat. Fresh meat? Is it nice and tender? Haha. Yeah, it is. Fresh meat. Mion's father smiled wryly as he answered Rika's question. Tender and tasty? Yeah, tender and tasty. Rika smiled with interest. Are we talking about Watanagashi here? Are we talking about cannibalism? Why did Rika suddenly act interested only when it came to this topic? That was a question that apparently nobody had the answer to. Does Rika-chama know something about this man? I didn't know. I don't know. After her father's flat reply, Rika buried herself underneath Orio's futon again. But when she buried herself there, Rika no longer started drawing again. Instead, she was making an expression like she was in deep contemplation. What shall we do about him, mother? Mion's father posed the question. He had the type of uncouth expression on his face, indicating that, given the order, he could snuff the problem out at any time. He came all the way to Hinamizawa. Let him take it easy for a little while. I mean, here's the thing. If I suddenly die or disappear, yes, I'm dead. That sucks for me. But that's also an admission of guilt by you guys. Because the fact that I'm gone or dead sends major red flags back to base. So that my entire police department will come. Which means that if you hurt me in any way, it kind of is going to send a lot more investigators. So it will not help you in any way. So you're saying to just let him go around as he pleases? Mion's father asked in response. Oreo smiled thinly as she responded. Leave him alone. But if he starts causing too much mischief, when that happens, don't hold back. I don't enjoy being taken lightly. Okay, so I think the point is this. They know that I would have kept... I think that this informant is actually working directly for... But even if this informant doesn't give me confirmation of that, it does tell me that the people in Hinamizawa know who I am. So, they know I won't directly just give up until I start to get a little bit... Otherwise, I would have just left already. However, if I hadn't heard about this, maybe after tomorrow night, maybe I would have went home. But this is some information. But this is telling me one thing. The people of Hinamizawa know. I mean, I can still investigate. That's what she's saying. I'm still allowed to visit Hinamizawa. The leader of the city, the entire council, especially Oreo is given the blessing saying, hey, I'm allowed to be here. I'm allowed to investigate. I'm allowed to travel and talk to people. It's just as long as I don't cause problems for them. So then the question is, when it comes to telling Mr. Kanoe or whatever, about this information, the question is, do I do that? Obviously, as a member of the police safety people, that I should, especially for the fact of trying to fight crime and stuff. On the other hand, kind of out of our element here. And I agree with Oreo on that. Nobody enjoys being taken lightly, especially if you're someone with much more power than I have, both in character and in real life. So as somebody who in real life has no power and in this game is just a public servant, imagine how much more it's for somebody that's actually a leader of an organization such as this. So basically is this. As long as I'm not disrespectful to the people of Hinamizawa and I don't cause them any problems, they won't hurt me. That being said, I am in a position where I cannot take them lightly, and I have to basically be fully acknowledging of this. I am in a position of utter helplessness, and I am very likely to not really have any leverage at all. Which means I need to be very mindful of what I do and say. Now, what do you do in this situation? Obviously, that depends on the person. Now, we could say, what would, Akasaka can do in this situation? Heck, what would Keiichi do if he was an older person in this situation? what would all of you do? Technically, the best option that we'd have, if we took the time to think about this, if our sole motivation was to just not die, it would be to tell my boss, who may be a mole, that I talked to an informant, but based off what he said, I decided that I don't think the people at Himatsubushi are involved, and that I think I should just go back to Tokyo. Because I do feel like the informant is telling me this stuff, all of it, including this. Because up to this point, I'd be like, what would be the point? And the idea is this. They understand that I am a detective, and they certainly want to cover all their bases. Simply put is this. If they don't give me this information, they are pretty certain that I'll figure it out on my own. But by giving it to me, especially with this little extra tidbit, it does tell me this. That they're aware of all of it. And that if I keep pushing on it, well, they're going to fucking kill me. So that's very inconvenient, and I would not like that. I would feel very, very unhappy about that. Is what they talked about. Apparently, it couldn't be that you're that fresh meat from the Metropolitan Police, are you? It couldn't be. Ha 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 ha. That sensation of cold, bristling fear began crawling its way up my back. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely... I'd probably pee myself. I don't know. Just saying, I would definitely feel very uncomfortable in this circumstance. This family council took place last night. In other words, yesterday. Today when I was dressed up with the tourist headed toward Himatsubushi, my cover was already blown? Why was Rika there? When I remember the first person I met when I got to the bus stop, I couldn't breathe. Here's the thing. There was no logical reason for Rika to be there. It may be your city, but it's out in the boondocks. Rika was there at the meeting. They already know my cover's already blown. They already know who I am. Everybody, from the driver to everybody involved, everybody I met, like all the people I talked to when I was over there, and they were inviting me to come back tomorrow, including the mayor, who was also at that meeting. Everybody already knows about the minister's grandson. Everybody already knows about me. I'm the only one who was out of the loop. And Rika was put there on purpose because out of anticipation for me, after all, it was the site I was told to go to. She was also told to go there because I was going to be there. Which means it was all a setup. So that I could basically be watched the whole time I'm in Himatsubushi so they could see what I was doing. And then bring me back. So basically they knew I wanted to come back to their base, but again, it wasn't so I could spy on them, it was so they could spy on me and get to know me. The person at the family council who expressed interest in the man being dispatched to the Metropolitan Police, Rika Furude. Which means she was there, either because she directly asked or made a decision on her own, but either way, it's because she knew that I would be there. She chose to go there because I was going to be there. Which means it wasn't a coincidence. It was a trap. It was entirely set up, whether it was directly just Rika making the decision herself on an impulse, or something ordered by Mion or Oryu or her father or the entire fucking council. The main point is this. I'm the one getting watched while I'm going through Himatsubushi, and the entire city is full of people who are ready to kill me at any fucking moment, including her. Probably a knife behind her back, or a syringe or something. Mion's got a taser and a gun. Also, hopefully I'm not drinking the water here because, I don't want to get Hinamasawa syndrome. Or be here for the volcanic swamp gas. I don't know if I want to stay for the Watanagashi festival. Well, I need to go to bed, especially I need to get some sleep before work. I was trying to decide if I wanted to use that one picture earlier for a thumbnail or if I want to use this. Obviously, everyone out there already knows because you already clicked on the video, but I think I'll use this for a thumbnail for the next video. Use that picture at the start for the next one, for this video. Anyway, we should go and save the game. I need to go to bed. Anyway, I thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys again in the next video. And I hope you guys enjoy this game as much as I do. It's a very good story, and even though the multiple animes actually go through different timelines, different altered stories, and technically have different stories than the visual novel, I like all of them. I still want more. I hope the developers of Higurashi and this game continue to make more, so that maybe by the time I finish the games that are currently available on Steam, they'll make something new. Later.